What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's full-time reaction to St Johnstone 1, Celtic 0. I've got Stuart and Callum here with me to go through the game. Callum, yet again, recently, we're coming out of the stadium debating whether to weigh the situation in the league with the performance that we watched today. I think that's 3 defeats in our last 6. I think the away form recently has really fallen off, and I think again today we watched a really lacklustre Celtic performance.
That kind of sums it up as lacklustre. Like the mindset going into the game, especially with Rangers' result yesterday, was a positive one. Celtic getting an extra stand was also another positive one. The weather was another positive one. Like just the good feel factor. But we were so far off it. It was criminal. I think the players probably turned up and expected to just roll St Johnstone over the bottom of the league. They're almost relegated, but with that result today, is now they've got a fighting chance. I says to you in the game, I wonder what their tactics are. Maybe not today, but at Hampden in the semi-final, I found out what their tactics are, and that's exactly what they'll try and do. Look, bigger pitch, it'll be a better pitch. The pitch wasn't great. I'm not blaming that because two teams need to play on it. I think St Johnstone used the pitch better than we did. I think they got the ball down when they had to, and then they went long. Throw-ins, they didn't go back centre-backs, they just got into the box and caused a bit of chaos. And I think it comes from the goal that St Johnstone get is the Jeffrey Sloop's a little bit rash. He just goes in, sticks his leg in, leaves it hanging. Boy goes over, it's a free kick, and then the ball goes in, and it's just a bit of a mess.
Near post header.
It's in near post, and look, we've been vulnerable to those this season. One complaint I've got, look, and maybe I'm right or I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but I think it's extremely harsh that Mike Nawrocki is out the team today. I really do. And look, I'm not the manager. Brendan's way cleverer than I am, but for a man that's come out of the dark to play against Rangers, then to play against Hearts, I thought he'd done relatively quite well. He put in some really good passes, even he was on the left-hand side at centre-back. But I think when you've seen Trusty today, it's been away for 2-3 weeks, he looked leggy, he looked vulnerable, and I think St Johnstone smelled that. The boy, Kirk, stuck on him, and he gave him a bit of a hard time.
Stuart, I think obviously losing the early goal is the worst possible start, but you think we've got plenty of time in the game, and you still fancied losing a goal that early, we'd come back into it, exert some form of dominance in the game. And listen, we did have loads of the ball, but again, in one of these games where we've kind of let the game drift by, you wait until the last 10 minutes to actually get any urgency in the team until we really start creating chances, and that's a disappointing factor.
I think it was tepid. I think it was a performance where Celtic looked ponderous. They overthought every attacking move. It's almost like they're trying to do geometry rather than manage to attack with any intent. I think when Yang came on, it seemed to change because there was a bit of a dynamic kind of element on that right hand side. In the first half on the left there was a wee bit, but I found it quite a hard game to read because some of the things that were getting done were the right kind of stuff, but maybe there just needs to be a bit of a kind of refresh of the way Celtic actually approach these games, because we've seen this defeat a few times and it's getting tiring to watch the same, as I say, tepid, ponderous performance, and there just didn't seem to be that urgency that you need. We don't have that killer instinct right now. There isn't that sense that we're going after it and going to get that title, and we're very lucky that Rangers are dropping points as well, because Celtic have not been good enough in the last few weeks.
No, we haven't performed at all in the last 3 or 4 weeks, Callum. Nicholas Kuhn comes off at half time. I think that's the second time in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think obviously he looks a shadow of the player from the start of the season. Would you put that down to a lack of confidence? It's not really clear what the sort of changing point was for him at this season, because he was flying earlier on.
Yeah, I also, like, again, I'm trying to stay away from that, but the pitch is not suited to his style. He's somebody that isn't really like a Jota. Jota wants to get the ball down, just a couple of step overs, drop the right shoulder and go left.
Obviously, there was Jota did that today on a poor pitch, and Kuhn's played on a lot of better pitches recently.
Jota's close control was way better than Kuhn's, in my opinion. I think Kuhn, somebody likes to have yards in front of him, he likes to kick it, he likes to cut inside. As soon as he cut inside, it was just St Johnstone were all waiting for him. He just couldn't really get it going, and Stuart touched on it. I thought Yang, when he came on, was really good, really positive. I've been on Yang's back, stick for it and all, to be fair. Like, that's what happens, you take it. But he's proven me slightly wrong because he is getting better. I thought he had a real good energy about him when he came on, and I'm not surprised that Rodgers made that, because Rodgers has probably got a bit of egg in his face. We coming out a few weeks ago and says, "Oh, we've got one game left. You'll see the real Celtic."
1 game a week.
That is not. 1 game a week. Sorry, that is not the real Celtic. When you think back to the start of the season, we went to January before we got our first defeat. Well, maybe there was murmurs of, could they go invincible? Who's going to beat them? It's now kind of falling off. It's tapering off at the end, and we're not really putting the foot down as maybe we usually tend to do. I don't know what they need. I don't know what they need that wee kick up the backside to get them going and motoring in. Again, you'll get it 1 week. You'll probably get it next Saturday. But I'm disappointed that we never took our opportunity today to get it back to next week, to win it in front of the home crowd. That's what's the biggest disappointment of losing today.
It's a huge disappointment. Stuart, I suppose it's really difficult to not come away from a game like that and talk about the team's performance and focus on the dip we've seen recently. Do you think that is too kind to the players to let them away with a sort of subconscious psychological lack of jeopardy given the lead we've got? Do you think that's letting them off the hook?
I think you can look at it two ways, and I think it comes down to kind of glass half empty or glass half full, depending on individuals. But I think if Celtic want to actually try and like we've spoken on the channel, we think they've levelled up in some kind of capacity in terms of Europe and various other things. But if Celtic want to prove that they are the team that they think that they can be, then there needs to be a sense of going after it. And it has been a long season. There's been a lot of games. I can appreciate the challenges that presents. But as you quite rightly said, Callum, the 1 game a week thing, Celtic should be getting a bit fresher, and there should be that sense of maybe like a little bit of energy. I think there is a mental tiredness as well. It's not just physical. So I can understand all of those elements. But as you say, psychologically, Celtic need to have the idea that they are going after this. And at the moment, it seems to be that they're waiting for something to happen. And it's just no good enough.
I'm definitely of the opinion that there is no excuses, Callum. That they're still playing for Celtic, regardless of the lead we've got. We want to win the title in style. There's a demand to win every game and to perform at a high level, and the form recently has been far from good enough.
It's not good enough since probably, I don't know, Bayern Munich, when we got an unbelievable result, almost close to winning it, and then again it's just tapered off. It's almost like we're going into this game and it's like Stuart was touching on it there, we look maybe psychologically a little bit tired, but it felt like today that we just had a big European match 3-4 days ago, and then we went into this and we're like, oh, it's one of those games. We've not got that excuse. Rodgers has to come out and forefront it. He has to take the blame. I thought the team needed a bit of freshness. And again, it's very rare that you see him make subs at half time, but he did. He brought on Greg Taylor out of the dark. I don't know where that came from, unless Schlupp maybe got injured, I'm not sure. But I just felt like it needed a wee bit of freshness into the team, and I'd like to see that on Saturday. I'd like to see the likes of Narochki going back in. I know Yang's obviously done his shoulder. It looks like he's done his shoulder, and fair play that he stayed on the pitch to just try and have an outlet of some sort. Left. And he actually put in a few alright crosses and tried to do his best. You can see him, he's literally running with his left side closed into him for the last 10 minutes, so he can't do too much. The positive is, I mean, there's not much positives, is there? But the positive is that our subs did look better. I thought Luke McCowan was decent when he came on.
Forrest had chances.
Forrest had goalkeeper's made an incredible save. That's a goalkeeper that's fighting to stay in the league, remember. We've now got a team that are known they're going soon to be champions because of Rangers constantly lose at home, so it allows us to come here and lose. But I don't want that mentality. I'm not wanting to win the league because Rangers keep losing. I want us to put the foot down on other teams, and that's a lesson that we need to learn for when we go to Hampden in the semi-final. This team can take so-called points off you, but they can also beat us in this. Everyone thinks that the treble's wrapped up. No chance. No. And if you play like that, you're walking into danger. Like, and that's the mindset we need to shift. Again, we just need to improve. We need to have players on it as if it's like a close title rather than 13 points, because it's annoying me, the buffer between 13, 16, 13, 16. Come on, Celtic, you need to pull the finger out and get these games done.
We just keep passing up the chances, Stuart, and I guess going forward, thinking about finishing the league campaign, but also trying to win the Scottish Cup. You can't show up like that and expect to win any football match.
No, and the bigger concern for me actually is I'm thinking now about next season. It feels like football obviously goes in cycles. It kind of feels like some of these players might be coming to the end of their cycle with Celtic. What I'm interested in, obviously we know Greg Taylor, obviously his situation. But I think there might be a few other players in the team that are kind of in that mode of, right, so what am I doing next? And like anyone who's changed their job or done that in their career understands that any human being is going to have things going on in their head. But I think there needs to be a clearing of the mental clutter with the players, and there needs to be a razor sharp focus on what Celtic are trying to achieve here, because at the moment they're bumbling along and it's no good enough. And by the way, Brendan Rodgers, who has come back to Celtic and done superbly well, this feels like a spell where it's his poorest spell domestically as Celtic manager. And I want to see some answers from whether that's changing the team up, changing the tactics, changing the approach. I think this is the time where you say, Brendan Rodgers, right, what have you got to show us something a bit different? Because if you look at his managerial career, then you'll see that there's almost a kind of time span where what he does works. And what I want to see is, can he refresh it? Can he refresh it from a coaching perspective? And then, obviously, the challenge for Celtic is if we do lose any players, because a lot of them showed real capabilities in Europe. If we do lose any players, how do we replace them? So all of that stuff is going on in my head.
That's a really good point. Just quickly, is what you're talking about is, yeah, we can sit here and blame Rodgers, and I fully do, but also players need to take responsibility.
Totally.
You're against bottom of the league. People like Engels today he absolutely hid at times. The same amount of times the ball, and he just wanted to flick it and get it away. I'm sorry, use your body. You're a tall, young, physical midfielder. You need to sort. Hatate sometimes does it. He uses his body almost like his rear end to try and move people out the way. His hips, like a John McGinn style. Engels has to do much better. People like Alistair Johnson, I thought when Carter Vickers got the ball, he was just right next to him. I'm like, get further up. Make St Johnstone go back the way instead of St Johnstone chasing you down, because there wasn't a link in there. It wasn't. I thought McGregor and Hatate were all right. And I know we hit the post as well. I think it was Hatate that hits the post from the short corner. But we need more than that. We need players to really step up at this time of the season. Once you get by the international fixtures in April, it's the final race. It's the final hurdle, if you want to call it that. It's the last one you need to jump. And right now, we didn't get over that.
No, not at all. There you go. That's it for today. Another poor away day for us. Give us your own thoughts on the game below, and we'll see you next week for the build up to Kilmarnock. Thank you.